No! No! No!
You could also say it's Canadians, but it's funny because it's true. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Rudowski here of WeAreChange.org, and there's a lot of tyranny that the world is dealing with. And historically, when you have tyranny, you usually have financial ruin. We're going to be talking about that correlation plus a lot more, all in this video, highlighting the latest news breaking right now that's actually important to the general public. But before we do, the clip that we played in the beginning of this broadcast is by an Instagrammer called Lance_the Rapper, who I think perfectly represented the Los Angeles Super Bowl that just took place a few days ago, perfectly highlighting a lot of the hypocrisy that's being finally exposed to the world. I just contacted this guy. Maybe we'll be doing some work together. Who knows? But this clip he made is absolutely perfect. Now, in related hypocrisy news, we, of course, have the U.S. corporate media along with the U.S. intelligence agencies saying that Russia will be invading Ukraine today, on February the 16th, even given a specific time. Information coming from the ever-trustworthy U.S. intelligence agencies that officially warned Berlin and other NATO countries that this was going to happen. The Russian foreign minister spokesperson decided to respond by requesting a full list of Ukrainian invasion dates from the United States and told them to, quote, go ahead and publish a schedule for this coming year. So according to her, Russian diplomats could, quote, schedule their vacations accordingly. A very sarcastic remark during, of course, a very serious situation, which the U.S. intelligence agencies are deciding to spend on attacking other media outlets like Zero Hedge, which, according to an anonymous U.S. intelligence official who hasn't sorted any kind of actual data or evidence or information, the media website Zero Hedge is, quote, a part of some kind of Russian propaganda effort. It's important to note here, again, that Zero Hedge is one of the few media organizations still out there that are anti-war, provide different perspectives than, of course, the U.S. official corporate narrative that's amplified through, of course, the mainstream media, and they have officially responded to the U.S. intelligence agencies and their anonymous sources, whoever they may be, that this accusation is false and have publicly declared that they have never worked with Russia. Again, these are very serious allegations, as it highlights a major pivot from U.S. intelligence agencies focusing and concentrating on the situation in Ukraine to, of course, media outlets in the United States who don't toe the official line. And to blanketly, without any evidence, say that they're working with the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service is a very serious accusations that someone should put their name behind, that we should see the receipts from, that we need actual evidence and data proving this, rather than, of course, just these blanket, unknown, anonymous statements. Since, it's important to fact-check individuals and try to hold them accountable no matter who they are. But as we know, the business of fact-checking has also been absolutely taken over and hijacked by some nefarious, powerful individuals who, of course, use it as a tool for the domination of all PR and control of thought, as many prominent figures recently have been hit. And whether it's Viva Frey, the main Habibi, or even the Defiant L Twitter page, which was extremely popular, had 353,000 followers, and was doing absolutely important work that was well-researched, entertaining, and from everything we've seen, has not violated any of the vague, generalized terms and services of Twitter. They literally just put people's tweets together, highlighting their hypocrisy. Who were the biggest hypocrites? Well, the most powerful people in our institutions, and now Twitter just banned their account because, according to Dave Portnoy, you can't hold people accountable nowadays, a big no-no, and his interpretation of this is accurate. And sadly, the online political discourse has lost a major asset, which was highlighting how absolutely full of crap the establishment was. And accountability is very hard to find nowadays, especially when it comes to very powerful people that control these very powerful institutions that, of course, have influence on big tech social media that stop major stories from getting out there to the general public, and many times are able to buy their way out of trouble, including hurting children in unspeakable ways. As, of course, we have the latest news with Prince Andrew settling with Virginia Roberts Giuffre. We talked about that in yesterday's video on LukeUncensored.com. If you haven't watched it yet, what are you waiting for? As, of course, the man that doesn't sweat just settled $10 million from someone he claims he never met. A very peculiar case that, of course, highlights some of the most sinister, horrible, unaccountable, messed up actions that are committed by some of the most powerful people in our lives. And that's why in today's Luke Uncensored video, we will be talking about China and the latest bombshell by Project Veritas with their latest expose of an FDA executive that is absolutely mind-blowing. We're going to get into that, plus a lot more, all exclusively on LukeUncensored.com. I hope to see you there on our own platform later on today, our virtual safe space where we get to say and do whatever we want. Now, if you remember, not so long ago, we told you that things were going to change drastically, especially here in the United States with election season coming up, and things have been changing, even in major democratic states, but also internationally with major governments like Switzerland and now Austria, one of the most hard-headed authoritarian countries in the world when it came to dealing with this sickness, is just getting rid of their mandates, restrictions, and lockdowns. They are joining a lot of other countries around the world that are doing the same, as of course the data and information, as well as the poll numbers, as well as the support from the general public have drastically changed the situation, and countries are drastically changing their policies to, of course, the fast-changing situation. For me personally, this is a little bit overdue, but of course, at least it's happening right now in some states, unlike Canada, that's literally doubling down and implementing more mandates, more restrictions as we speak. As of course, most places are getting their freedoms back, some places are taking it back more than ever, especially in Canada, where we saw the progression from 2 weeks to slow the spread. We're all in this together. 2, you're going to be fired if you don't take this inside of your body, and your bank accounts will be frozen if you protest us. And in Canada, let's be honest here, the people came together and peacefully asked for their freedoms back. The response by the government has been akin to what some people have called soft martial law, highlighting how this was never really about a sickness. This was about instituting control on the general public for some people, like the government of Canada, which has been penetrated by more than half of World Economic Forum members that, of course, make it up. They're all doing this in the name of, quote, keeping Canadians safe and, quote, restoring confidence in our institutions, which Jordan Peterson responded back from the official words of Justin Trudeau by saying, quote, restoring confidence in our institutions by seizing bank accounts, defining protest as insurrection, equating crowdfunding with terrorism, subsidizing legacy media, state mouthpieces, violating the charter, running away from the Capitol, lying about why invoking martial law, responding very eloquently and bluntly to the true reality of the situation, as some people are saying that Justin Trudeau has lost control of his countries by, quote, invoking the Emergency Act, which only confirms his incomplete and utter failure at dealing with positive, optimistic, and peaceful grassroots working-class blue-collar individuals. And the actions of Justin Trudeau are absolutely out of touch of reality, and these desperate, rash actions by the Canadian state is only making people lose more confidence in the government and state. Freezing people's bank accounts because they want to protest? What are these policies going to lead to? Well, of course, a lot of people taking their money out of the financial institutions. The Deputy Prime Minister, Christina Freeland, is a member of the World Economic Forum, and her actions that she's implementing will, of course, have more people get out of the banking system. It makes them lose faith in the institutions, as, of course, even alternatives to institutions like GoFundMe that screwed over these protesters have been hacked, have been attacked. Who benefits from the hack of alternative crowdfunding platforms that now had the information of the people who donated to it released to the general public? Who would do such a thing? Who benefits from these things are all questions that the corporate media should be asking. But according to some sources, the corporate media is literally going through this list and asking people to defend why they wanted to give truckers $40 in the name of standing up for their own personal liberty and freedom. The corporate media is asking people to explain themselves, which is absolutely disgusting behavior. But this behavior is also copied and pasted in places like China and places like New Zealand that still to this day is fining people who don't want to get tested, threatening them with arrest and having their accounts and property seized and put on no-fly lists if they don't pay the extortion racket that the government demands them to pay immediately. Disgusting letters and notices being handed out in that country to citizens who just want to live their lives. And with top-down, centralized control totalitarianism, you, of course, also have poverty, especially when you look at it historically. Who are the people that suffer the most under dictatorships? Well, of course, the average human being, as, of course, freedom is correlated with economic prosperity, and government centralization of power correlates with poverty. That's the correlation that has always historically existed, and, of course, this is perfectly represented by what's happening now in Canada, that is also now dealing with large inflation numbers. And the more it grips down on totalitarian control of its people, the more poverty it will create, as even perfectly represented by this surprising Washington Post article that finally saw the light of day and actually reported on something that actually matters here, highlighting how inflation, which is in record numbers here in the United States, falls hardest on low-income Americans. This, of course, is absolutely true, as, of course, the poorest among us deal with the biggest brunt of government policies that are supposed to be allegedly better for the environment, but in reality push the cost down to the peasants, enriching the super rich, and absolutely doing nothing for the environment nor the people that they claim to serve, as there are estimates, according to the Epoch Times, that the Biden energy policies have added over $1,000 of costs on typical households here in the United States. This is from analysis done by the Heartland Institute, which highlights how a lot of the Biden energy policies have absolutely screwed the little man, the poorest people in this country, who, of course, cannot afford the luxuries like the super rich people have. The inflation numbers are, of course, a lot higher than the government even lets on you to believe, as, of course, the cost of used cars in the United States has gone up nearly 40.5% since last year. Those are, of course, real numbers and highlight real problems in our economy that are only going to be exacerbated with more government control. And what did you expect with mandates, lockdowns, and restrictions that, of course, destroy the global supply chain that are still continuing even in major metropolitan areas like in New York City, where the mayor there, Eric Adams, which some have called a sellout big pharma shill, just fired over 1,400 government workers because they failed to comply with injecting themselves with the procedure that he demanded them to have. Firefighters, police officers, education workers fired, thrown to the streets by this ruthless bureaucratic thug that fails to hold himself accountable for the horrible policies which he promised and campaigned on changing. He is playing the race card, though, and of course he's met with criticism whenever he's questioned about, the surging crime which he promised to tackle in the city, as of course his priority is firing government workers who, of course, don't agree with him on everything. Again, sick, disgusting behavior by unaccountable government bureaucrats, and with people being fired, with people being restricted access to the economy, with people's bank accounts being seized. What effect do you think this is going to have on the already crashing economy? Well, of course, extremely negative and bad, and you have to ask yourself, at what point do you think that all of this is deliberate, especially with the state creating policies that we know wreak havoc on the economy? Why do they want to deliberately destroy the economy? Well, that's another question in itself. But in response to a lot of this nonsense, tyranny, and policies, there, of course, is also a trucker protest being planned in the United States, which is being censored and attacked every step of the way. What will happen with the protests here in the United States? Well, let me know down in the comment section below. I always appreciate your constructive criticism, your feedback. I love your honest takes. I love the crap posting. All of it. It means a lot to be able to engage, to be active, to be with you, and that's why I'm very grateful for you spending time with me. It means the world to me. I got another video coming your way. I got a lot more to say in my unfiltered, uncensored platform on lukeuncensored.com. I hope to see you there later on today. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys, and this is why I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.